Welcome to our Monday Soul Deliciousness. I'm going to give you a second to get your notification. We are going to talk about expectations because they can be a real hindrance for us when we don't realize the expectations that we're creating for other people as well as for ourselves. As always, I super love it if you help me out by commenting on one of my YouTube videos. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. And if you share and then tag me in it, I will love you forevermore. Teaching is my passion and helping other people to find their happiness. What I like to call getting connected with your inner child is my purpose. And I greatly appreciate it if you help me to reach as many people as possible so that we can, well, realistically, we all benefit when we bring our own state of what we call our higher level conscious to a higher platform because we are all energy together and we actually influence those around us. So that's why we want to try to do that in the most positive, helpful way possible so we don't become part of the problem. All right, so we're going to talk about these crazy things called expectations. And if you are new to my page, just a quick hello, this is who I am. My name is Amy Jorgensen. I love teaching. I have a master's degree in education. I also have a fantastic corporate job and I do energy work as well. So I am the founder of the Soul Centered Academy. If you are into energy stuff, that is the place to be. I basically have learned every methodology that I can get my hands on, and I teach it to you in the way that it resonates with me. So there you go. You can actually become a certified practitioner. All right. So tonight we're going to talk about expectations. So let's say hypothetically that you got a brand new job and hello, Lisa. And at your brand new job, you basically show up and everything is a little bit chaotic. So the person that you're supposed to be meeting with when you show up, they're really busy. They're often on their phone and they just hand you a piece of poster board paper and a set of markers and they're like, "Hey, I need you to make a anniversary cell sign." And you're like, "Okay." And then the person that's sort of helping you is um gets another phone call and they're like, "I'm sorry, I have to go." So that's all the information that you get. You're basically left alone there in this room with your paper and your markers. And they're like, "Oh, by the way," as they're running out the door, they're like, "I need this done in about an hour." So there you are. You want to make this great first impression. How hard can it be? I'm even going to put it out there that the outline for the sign that says anniversary cell is already there. So all you have to do is color it in. Perfect. Easy peasy. So you sit down and you start coloring the sign and voila. Okay. So about an hour later, this person shows back up in the room. You're done. It looks fantastic. You were taught in school to stay between the lines. So you did this fantastic job. And your boss looks at it and freaks out a little bit, screams mildly, and says, "Oh my gosh, it has to be red and blue. The sign has to be red and blue. It's mandatory that it's red and blue." And so there you stand, wanting to be the employee of the day. It's a brand new job. Everything's awkward, right? You feel it. Like you feel it because you colored it red and yellow. And so now the room, you're overwhelmed. Negative energy is coming from the person, lack of communication. You feel frustration. You feel their anger, their irritation, that overwhelm is being shared between both of you. And you don't know what to do, right? But here's the problem, right? What was the expectation? What was the expectation that was set? Does the boss have I don't want to call it the right, but should the boss be aligned with being upset with you or this employee in this situation when they didn't say the sign had to be red and blue, right? And one could even say for the employees part, they didn't ask what color the sign should be. So there's lots of stuff going on here, lots of stuff. It's just a mess because there is no expectation. So what would even have been better, right, is if by some chance there was a set of instructions there. And when I say a set of instructions, like really detailed instructions, because if you've ever played the little game that I think I've done it so many times, so you've probably done it too, where there's an example where someone tells you to, you have like a piece of paper and a pencil, and you usually can't see what anybody else in the room is doing. But then somebody in the front of the room has a picture, like a pretty simple picture with some pretty basic shapes. And they're supposed to instruct you on how to draw what's in the picture. So, if they say draw a circle, and the people drawing, like, right, if you're the one with the pen and paper, you're not allowed to ask any questions. So only the person can give the instructions, but you can't communicate at all. So then you're drawing a circle. Well, how big is the circle supposed to be, right? Where on the paper is the circle supposed to be located? So the purpose here is that when you're done, everybody shows their pictures, and everybody's pictures look completely different, even though they were given the same set of instructions, because there's no clear expectation as to where the circle was supposed to be or how big it was supposed to be. But, right, if I hold up this diagram with these really basic shapes and I tell you the expectation here is that you draw this exactly the way that it looks, you're going to get it pretty spot on. So, in this situation, no clear expectations to create the sign, negative energy is created. So use this in your relationships with people. So let's go there first. Um, I would say that, and I know because if you get into energy work, or if you are aware of, because it's talked about all the time, that you have a throat chakra. And this is the spot where you tend to either be outspoken, or you tend to not voice how you're feeling, right? So, depending on that, it might be something where you have a hard time saying, this is what my expectations are. So we get into this little space where when we don't clearly communicate what we think should happen, then we expect people to just do it. We just expect that they'll do it the way that we think is the right way. Now we get into these little things where we're like, oh my gosh, common sense, people, common sense, right? And so we expect that people are going to drive on the right side of the road. We expect that people are going to stop at a stop sign. Our entire day is based off of expectations. In fact, restaurants have expectations of what? That you'll come and eat for breakfast, that people will come and eat for lunch, and that people will come and eat for dinner. They have an expectation based off of specific things. So when we go outside of that, outside of the norm, then we can create frustration for ourselves and for others. So one of the problems is that my expectations are going to be way different than yours based off of what I've been taught or what my life was like. I expect that I'm going to eat ketchup with french fries. I also expect that if I was going to eat french fries, I would also be eating them with ranch. I eat ranch with everything. So would I expect that other people might do the same thing? Possibly. But see where I'm going with that? We all do things completely different. I don't know why. I must be hungry because every example that is popping into my head is food related. I mean, there's an expectation. I was listening to someone that I love on the radio. And she was talking about making macaroni and cheese, and how when she first did it, she was putting the noodles in before the water was at a boil. And if you don't know what you don't know, right, it makes them kind of slimy and weird. So there's an expectation that if I have someone say, hey, do you want some macaroni and cheese? That it's being cooked the way the package directions are, so that when I eat it, I have an expectation of what it's going to taste like. Now, I have people in my family that don't put any milk in their macaroni and cheese, and they put an entire cube of butter in it. So, is the expectation that if they ask me if I want some macaroni and cheese, but I don't know that that's how they make it, maybe we have a guest over and they're like, hey, let me make you some mac and cheese. the person has an expectation that it's going to taste like the directions are, not like nobody put any milk in it and put an entire cube of butter in it, right? So expectations can get us into a bind. They can get us into a pickle. So when it comes to our kiddos and our spouse, I'm going to tell you that you can't emphasize enough. Make your expectations clear and concise. If you want something done a certain way, don't expect that you're going to get it done a certain way if you didn't tell the person exactly how you want it done. That's just the meat and potatoes of it. That's how it has to be. You can't just assume or expect that a person understands it the way that you do because you have it in your little noggin that this is the way that bacon is supposed to be cooked. Once again, we're back at food, right? Maybe you like your bacon really crispy and I like my bacon really not crispy or whatever, right? So you can't be upset with someone for cooking bacon and giving it to you the way that they eat it. Or let's go with eggs, right? How many millions of ways, not literally, but how many different ways can you cook an egg? So if I say I want eggs for breakfast and that's all I say, and I get scrambled eggs and I wanted my eggs over hard or boiled, that's, not an expectation that I should be assuming that someone's going to give me back. So I tell my kids and my husband this all the time. If you want something specific, you need to make sure that you're giving a clear expectation. Don't expect someone to show up at work at 8 o'clock in the morning if you didn't tell them that is the time that you were going to start, right? I can't expect someone's going to show up at 5 a.m. for a meeting if I simply say to them, hey, we're going to meet tomorrow and talk about this issue that's going on. They're going to be like, okay, cool, right? What's the expectation? Their expectation is probably that we're going to meet sometime between what most people would consider regular working hours of between, 8 and 5 or 9 and 5. They're not going to be like, oh, I didn't know Amy wants to meet at 6 a.m. because I like doing things early, right? That's an expectation that I'm just creating that is going to cause me frustration. So huge thing with our kids, huge things with our spouses. Kids also have a smaller capacity to maintain an expectation. And so, even though one day your expectation was that you do your homework before you watch TV, right? That's something that has to become a habit expectation. So, I think we all know those stresses. If you've got kids, about what that expectation is, it sometimes becomes needing to get into a habit before it becomes a clear expectation every day. So, clear and concise. That's what I want you to think about when you're talking to your kids, when you're talking to your spouse, when you're talking to a coworker. There's a clear, concise expectation. If I tell somebody, like, I need you to collect some data on this specific thing, I don't just leave it at that, right? If I need 35 data points, I need to specifically say, I need 35 data points. I want you to take the data points every 10 minutes. I want you to take 5 of them. Something very specific like that, right? Because if I don't and I get 35 data points that we're all taken at the same time, that's kind of my fault right there. All right, so let's look at this when we're talking about ourselves, because we do this to ourselves and we do it even at a higher level than the things that I just told you. Because for some of you, as you're listening to that, you're like, well, duh, but we do it all the time. So notice yourself doing it when you're getting frustrated with people. Think, wow, was that expectation there? If you made an appointment at 3 o'clock and someone doesn't show up and they know that the appointment was at 3 o'clock, then the expectation, was for them to show up on time. That's legit. But if you don't communicate what your expectation is, then know that you're going to lead a world of really a lot of frustration and lots of resistance in what you're doing in life. So let's look at it for ourselves. So we tend to be what? Really critical and incredibly hard on ourselves. So my question to you is, next time you do that, where you catch yourself being overly critical and beating yourself up, I want you to ask yourself, wow, did I give myself a clear expectation? So if I get to the end of the week and I'm like, well, there I was again, I didn't work out all week. Well, did I even give myself an expectation of when I was going to work out? Did I specifically say to myself, you're going to work out between 6 and 7 p.m., Tuesday and Thursday and Saturday? Maybe I didn't. So what exact expectation did I not fulfill here? Keeping it really broad like that, even for myself, of, oh, I'm going to work out this week. And then it doesn't happen. And then I get frustrated with myself. But really, I didn't give myself a really clear expectation. Um, Take it even to a bigger thing. Like maybe you're sitting there and you beat yourself up all the time because you didn't, here I'm sitting and I didn't get a college education. Well, did you give yourself an expectation that you said by the time you're whatever age right now that you would have a college education? And did you put some expectations in place on a smaller time frame? As in, by that I mean, when you were 19 years old, your expectation was that you were going to be enrolled in school. And if you're looking back and you're like, no, I never really did any of that with myself, then don't hold yourself up to that expectation because you didn't give yourself any clear, concise plans. We're going back to the someone threw a poster board at you and said, create a sign, but didn't give you any instruction on how to get there. Then, you're going to flop at it. So with that, I'm going to tell you, like, be as clear with yourself as you are with other people. If you have an expectation that you expect yourself to meet, then give yourself the same benefit of the amount of details that you would give to someone else. Be respectful of yourself. I can't emphasize that enough in everything that you do. You treat yourself sometimes worse than you would ever allow someone else to treat you. Like we can be so mean and so critical to ourselves, and we would never accept that behavior or that treatment from our friends, from our kids, from our spouse, from a family member, yet we can talk to ourselves in that way. And remember, always your cells are listening and they align with your attitude and your mentality. So if you are constantly being super negative, if you are constantly being super critical, then your little internal cells are listening to yourself and they are responding accordingly in a negative, critical way, which, well, we know, as I say this all the time, it's going to lead to some type of illness, some type of breakdown in your body somewhere. Suddenly your leg's not working right. And then you start bashing on yourself when in reality, your body's taking care of you as well as you're mentally taking care of yourself. And that's just how it works. Okay, guys. So I just want to take one last second to shout out that in the comments, you're going to see I have left my human design class open, but it starts on Sunday. It's a beta course. What does that mean? It means that I teach it live, then I work with the group, see if there's specific questions or something that they're a little bit cloudy on. Then I add that back to it before I record it and I post it into the course section so that it then becomes a full blown course that people can buy later. So that's why the beta course is at a huge discount. I've left it open because I had a couple of people that were like, wait, I want to hop in before you close it. So if that's been on your radar, make sure you hop in because no kidding, I'm really going to change it after tonight and put it at a full price that's only available as a launched course. Okie doke. All right, you guys, I hope you have a beautiful rest of your night. Thanks for hopping on. I appreciate it always if you share so we can touch as many people as possible.